Hi everyone, I'm Aliya. This is Kelly from Women Who Lead and Sell. And today we have a great episode with Sarah Lloyd-Hughes from Ginger Leadership Communications. And not surprisingly, she talks to us about how to communicate really effectively. She talks about how to be human in our interactions in a world of AI. And surprisingly, we touch quite a lot on leadership.
Here at Women Who Lead and Sell, we are on a mission. 1,000 women to their 7-figure milestone in the next 3 years. We want you to join us. We want you to learn with us. If you love our episodes and you love what the women are sharing, like, subscribe, DM us, just tell us what you want to hear from us. And we can't wait to speak to you in the future.
Welcome, Sarah. This is so exciting. I'm going to kick off with a question today. You said leaders are going to have to speak human if they're going to be successful in an age of high volume, low impact communication. What did you mean by that? What were you alluding to?
Thanks for quoting me back to myself.
It's good, isn't it?
I say that's always good. Yeah, we've got an overload of information in this world. I think we've probably all noticed that information is cheaply available. Anything that we want to know, we can literally just whack it into ChatGPT, and we've got reams of information again and again and again, just without end. It's been many years since the internet has become beyond the capacity of any one of us to read it, to take in all of that information. So if we've got all the information we could possibly need, it becomes much less useful than it used to be. And even now you see people coming out with their books. I did the same some years ago. Do people read them? My husband still hasn't completely finished my book. And you'd expect people who are close to us to take in all of that information with great interest. It turns out maybe not. So if our nearest and dearest struggle to absorb the messaging that we're putting out into the world, what does that mean for those who aren't that interested in us and are focusing on their own things? It means that we need to become way more skillful at cutting through the noise. And how are we going to do that if ChatGPT and other tools are able to be very skillful in terms of pulling out information and even condensing it down? It's the human beings who need to bring meaning, make that live, make it alive, make it relevant for others. So that's what I mean by being human, by speaking human, that we need to translate information and data to people to make it relevant to them, to make it meaningful to them, so that we're not just swimming in a sea of information, but that information is relevant and important and listened to. So that's what I mean.
Yeah, because that is really a pitfall, isn't it, of ChatGPT and AI? And we talk to our clients about that. It's like, look, some of them aren't familiar with it and actually are only starting to use it. And so they're still in this is amazing, let me type this in. That playful stage we were all at the beginning of ChatGPT. Then it just produces reams and reams and reams of stuff, and we're sort of slightly blown away by it all. It's just taking over the place, I think. I know that you're working on a new project in this. Are you willing to tell us a little bit about that and where your thinking is starting to go? So I know you're working on it and you're in the middle of it. You haven't launched it yet, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reaction that we have to ChatGPT are just, bang on, that we look at it and it's exciting and it feels substantial. And then have you noticed that you look at it again and it feels very thin? And the closer you look into it, the less meaningful it becomes. And it struck me, I had the pleasure of experiencing some Oxford exec education in November last year. And there was a moment that struck me where this amazing expert was standing in front of some of the great business leaders of the world. And he brought a visual that he had put through AI. It was AI generated. And the immediate reaction to that visual was, wow, it was some kind of wave of people that looked like a flood, an overload, a tidal wave of people. And you thought, wow, what an incredible image. And then you moved on to the next thing. That wow lasted about half a second. And then obviously I thought about it because I'm talking about it with you now. But in terms of quality of craftsmanship, it was only as useful to me as the amount of attention that I put into it, which was very, very little. So it becomes really not worth that much. So to the question around what are we doing with our clients? Yeah, we're really working to help them in that sea of information, to help them to cut down and articulate and talk, say fewer words, but have much greater meaning in those words. Mm. And I think of it, if we think about the old Monty Python style comedy, let's imagine that you're taking a weapon of choice, and that weapon is a frying pan, and you're sort of donking someone around the side of the face with a frying pan. We'd rather communicate like that an awful lot, that it's all the information, unarticulated, undifferentiated information all at once. Bonk. And that's how we're attacking our communications, as it were. When really we need to be thinking a bit more like the spear. What's the point of what we're trying to say? And how do we focus everything that we're trying to say behind that point so that it cuts through and does something for others?
Yeah, we were just we've been talking, we've done an episode with Callie Kolanaki, who's based in Greece, and she's an expert in YouTube videos, which can be quite brief, can't they? And we were talking with her, and she said, I think this goes for any kind of content. You've got to think about it as a movie. It's got to be paced right. It's got to create the emotion. It's got to have the clarity. And I'm wondering whether what's really missing from the AI equation, if you like, is lived experience. Yeah. Like, I can tell when content comes from lived experience. So Kelly, for example, has got this amazing business diagnostic around sales leadership. And when she first showed it to me, my comment to her was, this document has been hard won. This document has got years and years of experience of doing things wrong, doing things right, figuring things out in this. I could just read it through the document. And I'm just wondering if do you agree with that? Do you think that may be where people are missing out and they're not putting in their lived experience because they think it's too mundane or something? And yet it's so valuable.
Absolutely. It's a human, isn't it? We are, we think that it's more doing. We think it's more of this from the left brain, transactional doing, achieving, that adds value. But when we think about it, we will really consider it carefully. The reason why we work with people, why we choose one organization over another, is not speed. It's not even necessarily the quality of what's on paper. It can be, but it's only ever going to come to life if it's with lived experience of the people that we're working directly with and the depth of what it is that they are considering. And that has to come from human experience, which is why storytelling, and you mentioned movies, but storytelling is such an important, one of my team, Beverly Glick, who's a storytelling master, calls it the primal technology. It's the first thing that humans did when they started to communicate verbally. We would sit around the fire and we would tell stories to each other. And so there's something very instinctive that happens on so many levels when we bring something to life with a human experience. We can tell, and the left side of the brain might go, yes, very logical, very good, tick. But when we show people and we bring it alive through something that a particular person experienced in a certain time and place, that's when it goes in. It goes to the heart. It connects left brain and right brain. It connects heart and mind. So we, in our ever busy world, imagine that it's about doing more and being more efficient, but it's got to be about, yes, great, be efficient and do more. But it can't be meaningful unless a human being is involved. It just can't. We can all feel that, right?
And that's a large part of what you do, isn't it, Sarah? Your courses, you show people and sort of train them on how to communicate more effectively, which cuts across everything: personal life, relationships, work, creating something. Tell us a bit more about what's the lived experience in Ginger Communications, for example. What have you brought to that?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what it's all about, you've got those amazing boffins within organizations who get an incredible strategy paper together, right? And I just saw one from a client that we work with in the US that was from, I won't mention the name of the consultancy firm, but it was a big one. And their strategy document, I was looking at like this. It was like eating a whole lemon because it was extremely dry. Like it was sucking the the moisture out of my mouth, even looking at this document. And you can see that although it's technically correct, it's not going to do anything because it's a strategy paper that someone goes, oh, brilliant, we've done that work. Thanks, consultancy firm. Now let's put it on the side and imagine that that's going to do something. Or another organization we work with where their leaders, their owners of the company just made a huge announcement about the future of the company, but they did it in an email and thought that was enough. And it turns out that there is a gap between these the things that we think are really important, whether that's strategy or, product features or anything else. There's a gap between that and the people who might be receiving that information. And, if there's a gap, people either don't care or they make it up. So that, in a strategy vacuum, your people will go ahead and do their own thing or possibly get nervous about what you haven't communicated or haven't communicated effectively. We need to be able to really take the communications and bring them to the people with heart and with meaning. And that's what we mean when we're talking about leadership communications, that it is communications plus leadership driven through human beings that makes the difference in impact of what it is that we're trying to achieve together, And it's nice if instead of only having something dry and, technically correct, we had information out there that filled everybody up with a sense of purpose, a sense of memorability, that this is information that I want to take, that I want to do something with and that I want to pass on, because then whoever is communicating it becomes a multiplier. In the common terms of the day, something goes viral, but that can happen for our businesses as well as for, the silly things on YouTube that might easily go viral.
If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you're interested in growing your business. And if so, we have a 6-week program where you will get the clarity that you need to come up with that strategic plan that you need to get to that next level.
Yeah, if you want straightforward, no fluff, like hands-on, real personal experience that's going to get you to the next level of your self-leadership and to land the next high-value client, come and find out more. Keep following the podcast, listening to what we're doing, and also come over to LinkedIn to find out the details.
There's one of my favorite movies. This is the thing I do, always bring in movie ideas because I love movies, is a movie with Harrison Ford and I can't remember the name of the female actress, and it's called Good Morning something or other. And I remember telling Kelly about this, and they have this really funny scene where they're wandering along. They're in the backs of the TV studio. It's about a news program. Harrison Ford plays this really curmudgeonly newsreader, doesn't want to be there, and she's the producer. And they're walking past the breakfast bit, and she's complaining at him that he won't do the slots that she wants him to do, that he thinks are sort of light and fluffy and beneath him. And she's sort of saying to him, yeah, but do you want the news to be bran? And she's holding up this plate of bran, right? And he goes, well, what do you want it to be? Donut. And she's going, well, it needs to be a bit of both. And sometimes I say to Kelly, when I'm looking at our content, I go, has it got enough bran? Is it too much donut? Or is it too much bran, not enough donut? And that's the shortcut that we use. But there's a little story there. There's like an image there, isn't there, that you can immediately go, oh yeah, bran and donut, good combination. They just seem to be a real shortcut through to getting an idea across. That's what I love about analogies and stories. They're just fun. Speaking to our listeners who are female founders who maybe haven't been as highly trained as you have, and even us, we've had communication training, but What would you say to them starting out to start to think about their communication and maybe 3 basic things like do this, don't do that, or what would you say to them?
I mean, I totally get the idea of the 3 easy win tips because it's nice and left brain and it's, gimme. I'm probably going to answer the question in a different way because
please do.
That's my style. I've always been interested in what is it underneath the thing that works. So, as I started my career setting up Ginger, we were all about public speaking and how do you make public speaking work? You could say, how do you hack public speaking? But that's not so much my style. What I'm interested in is what are the behaviors under the surface that cause us to be great at something. So what are the behaviors under the surface that cause us to be incredible, inspiring communicators that make change happen? That's how maybe I would approach that question. And in many ways, it's simpler than we think. So there are moments in our life where we feel relaxed, where we're absolutely on our game in terms of being funny, being clear, lighting up a room, telling an incredible story. I often think about my friend who is a partner in a law firm who every time he speaks to any of us, he has the whole room captivated with this huge, funny story. So he is a natural storyteller. And then you put him in front of a camera or you hand him a mic and, he disappears. So he doesn't like it. He doesn't want to like it. And he'd sort of run away from it his entire career. So we know that that's possible, even if you're very successful in your career. And what I would say to him and anyone who is like that is it's not about doing public speaking or doing leadership communications in a certain way. It's not about, getting that cookie cutter out and stamping you and making, cutting your legs off here a bit and stretching you out a bit there so that you get to fit the mold. It's really not about that. What I'm interested in is how do we take that version of him where he's telling a story and pull that on to the stage where there are people looking. So it's an inner investigation of what's the difference, spot the difference between me when I'm comfortable versus me when that weird physiological stuff of like, oh, people are looking at me and they've gone silent, which is what we call the predator reflex. The moment in the jungle where all of the little cicadas and everything go quiet because they can see that there's a jaguar prowling around and the apex predator is there and we all need to be quiet. That's what's happening on a physiological level when people stand up and speak and everyone stops talking out of politeness. We get triggered, the fight or flight mechanism cranks up and all of a sudden we think it's a life or death situation. And, there's no jaguar so far. All of the clients I've had over 15 or more years have survived their public speaking experience. I've never had any jaguar maulings. It's always gone pretty well, I'd say. So there's something physiological going on that isn't true. And it's on us to, I suppose, come to terms with that, be friends with it, say, oh, hello, nerves, hello, funny feeling, hello, blushing, which is one of my favorites when something challenging happens in a communication setting. And instead of panicking about that and thinking that there's something wrong, we go, all right, yeah, that's actually really, really normal. And can I, as quickly as possible, return to that nice place in my tummy where I'm myself and comfortable and telling my stories like I would do in the kitchen with my friends.
Do you think that affects when people are putting out any content, even written content? Do you think they sort of put out inauthentic content because they're hiding a little bit, would you say?
Wow, there's a huge pressure, isn't there? There's a huge pressure to do it right and get the content out. And I think it could be the case. It's not so much my area of expertise. I haven't really thought about it so much, but I can well imagine that the same inauthenticity that can plague us when other eyes are looking can happen in our written tone of voice. Why not? What do you think?
I don't know. I think, yeah, it just surprises me how much we've been talking about mindset in and around business. It's come up in every person we've spoken to in one form or another. I'm interested to hear what you talk about hacking confidence through the body as part of the training that you do. Is this, tell us something about that. What is that connected to what we're talking about now?
Yeah, and I'd love to jump in on that. I'm waiting to see what you've got to say, and then I'm going to add a bit as well on that.
Yeah, okay, thank you. It's probably one of the most popular TED Talks, Amy Cuddy, looking at power postures and the body-mind connection has been really well established now through James Lang's theory and polyvagal theory and so on, that it shows that what we think is happening is not happening at all. So what we think is happening is I have a thought and the body responds, but actually there's so many pieces of information being received by the gut in particular, but all over our body that are then decoded by the brain. So that means that we feel something first and then we interpret it rather than the other way around. Yeah. Now, what does that mean? It means that when we are physically in the position of confidence, our body is picking up those signals of confidence and decoding it in the brain as, oh yeah, I must be confident here. And likewise, when we're putting our body in the position of low confidence or, let me hide, let me protect ourselves, there's a signal saying I'm in some kind of danger here. Mm. So that's really what's meant by hacking the confidence, that if you put yourself in a position of somebody who is confident, you are much more likely to feel that in yourself. Is that what you were doing? I mean, Kel, what's your experience?
No. And so Aliya did her research, very different place that she's coming from me. And of course, we've worked together before and I've known you, since 2016. And one of my favorite things about you is how back then, and you did it just recently, how you refer to, so this is what happens. You're in conversation with you, and you'll notice, like you'll have a self-awareness about something. And then it's like, that's one part of your brain, but the other part just goes, that's a habit. What's that habit? And it was my I have many favorite things about you, but I loved seeing that and almost watching what was going on in your brain, because you would have something, put towards you, like a business, a complex issue. And clearly there were all kinds of like either imposter syndrome or this or whatever going on. But you would talk to yourself like, oh, well, that's just a habit I've created. And so I can uncreate that. Like, I think that it's just so innocent and it's very simple. But as we know, it's really profound in terms of if that's your daily moment by moment practice. So like, I don't know if I've ever said that to you. Is that something you're aware of? Was it always there? You kind of just took it on, or have you cultivated it? What are you laughing at?
You have mentioned it to me, and I love that you spot it. And okay, I think there's a few things going on there. And it's a really rich thread for leaders, isn't it? Yeah. Because if we're able to detach ourselves from what we're doing and see whether or not it's working, and make a choice, then we're able to grow. If we are our habits and our behaviors, we can't do much to evolve. So thank you. And yes, and may that be the case for all of us, that we can spot, get aware of what it is that we're doing and try to be less attached to how we do it. And of course, there are so many parts of my personality that I am attached to that I don't want to change. But there are other parts that are easier for me to change around. Why and how does that happen? I think partly there's a real knowledge about purpose from my perspective. I am very deeply Buddhist, as you know, Kelly. Yes. It's a huge guiding force and thread and essence to my life. I've got pictures of my Buddhist lamas surrounding me here, looking at me and feeding me all day. What does that mean? It means that it doesn't have to be Buddhism, but it gives me an anchor. It gives me a sense of direction, a sense of purpose that goes beyond personal. So whatever I come up against, like right now within the business, we've been looking at our first quarter and going, oh, not meeting our sales targets, right? And it's really easy to get down on that. Equally, it's really easy to get up when you are meeting your sales targets and hurrah, because, I am nothing when I'm achieving lower than target and I'm everything when I've made the big win. But actually, what I'm reminding myself of is that the anchor is not that. That isn't what I should be tethering my sense of self to. I should be tethering my sense of self to something greater, a higher purpose. So if it is that, and then I come to the situation where there's a difficulty, I can ask myself, does this habit here that you've just pointed out to me, does it serve the higher purpose or not? And so it's easy for me, or easier for me, to let go of a habit when I can see my sense of higher purpose and connect it to that. And then say, okay, in service of that greater good. And it could be as simple as, does this benefit my children? I'm, trying to take them on a private schooling adventure at the moment. And does this decision, does this habit, does this behavior from my side contribute to us getting enough bucks in the bank to be able to do this? Yes or no? Yeah. And what do I really care about more than the habit? That's I think probably what's going on there. And it's my way of reminding myself of what's more important than my own ego.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. And I learned a little bit more there about why it's so important to me. So your specialism and fascination, obsession is communication and public speaking. Mine has always been business and women, like how women approach themselves in business, self-leadership, the preparation, their expectations in business, like how they take themselves on. And I'm going to link something. So when kind of what you were saying, Aliya, so when I first found you and Ginger, it was where your communication to me was high impact. It drew me in. I was looking for who I would like to work with, and your doodle images and your very precise communication drew me in, were very compelling, very authentic, and had me really understand who you were from the get-go. Like, it really cut through. And then our work together, because of some of the goals you had and where you wanted to take your vision, had it be that some of that communication started to adapt and kind of got grown up a little bit from the audiences. And I don't know that I've ever asked you this, but when that was 10 years ago, or almost 10 years ago now. So can you talk us through, you're the communications expert, the expert, you know so much, you live and breathe it. But like, what's that journey been like for you to have such human, raw, compelling, magnetic communication, and then to have it go on its journey to where you are now? I would love to know that.
Thank you. Yeah. And maybe I'll just explain what you mean by the doodles, because that was maybe phase one of Ginger, and then me passionate when you and I met. I was in the fortunate position quite early on within my Ginger journey, of being invited to write a book with Pearson, and so beautifully published books. It was on their bestsellers list and did really well on the bookshelves and so on. And I had hand drawn the illustrations with a Sharpie pen myself. And I had this little character who was Ginger. And that's what Kelly means by the doodles. That's part of what drew you in. And I think you certainly wanted to, I think you said you wanted to protect someone who was so sort of naive in a way as to put that out there. That was my go-to market, these very, very personal hand-drawn images. And they connected me to certain incredible and beautiful people like you. And our first phase was really an incredible wave of really interesting, different people from all across the spheres of life. And I would describe that as hardcore idealism, that phase, but not really satisfying in terms of the commercials. And that's where you came in, Kel, and really helped me to shift over to what you could call Ginger phase 2. And that's also when we went from it's all about public speaking and inspiring speaking to this concept of leadership communications. So I wouldn't say exactly communications. It has to be this combination of the communication and the leader, and communication inhabited through human beings. Yeah. So phase 2 actually coincided with the birth of my first child, Leo, who's now 8. Kelly and I met over a sausage sandwich around about that time, or just before I was pregnant.
I want to grow my business. I want to do this. Okay, I'm in. Let's do it. And I haven't told you I'm pregnant. Okay, some projects to do then.
and definitely needing sausage sandwiches in my pregnancy phase at that moment.
Yeah.
The feature of our first meeting. So yeah, what you helped me to do was to make decisions about what am I actually doing here? Because I think you pointed out that I was running 3 or 4 different businesses, and all the time I was caught up on other people's ideas of how I should be selling. You know, we came to call these our fancy schemes after some years. That, you know, the guys who would help you to monetize a webinar, or the lead magnets that, you know, if you just get enough people through at the top of the funnel here, that'll magically pop out as, you know, your 6, 7, 8 figures of whatever. And we tried some of those over the years. We tried all sorts of different approaches, and it didn't really work until I worked with you, Kel, and you listened and you pointed out, and we took time rather than racing at it and trying all sorts of weird things that were highly overpromised and under-delivered. So phase 2 was all about me realizing that if we were going to marry the idealism of phase 1 with actually needing to make enough money to look after an additional life, we would need to go into the corporate world, and we'd need to make some decisions about what we were and weren't doing. And you helped me, Kel, to shift from what was it, a 6 months public program that we were really struggling to get people to pay a couple of £1,000 for, to a senior level women's leadership program that, you know, was £8,000 and selling out, right? So that was phase 2. We got into leadership communications properly. We did a lot of work around women's voices, and I'd say that what we inhabited there was the core level of leadership within businesses that turned into some incredible client programs. And, you know, we used to take women to the House of Commons to speak with our Game Changers Summit, getting thought leading women trained up to do effectively TED Star talks in a room of amazing women. And, you know, those videos are still online, and we've got this incredible wall of women, it's called, on the Ginger website, where we showcase some of the women who've been through that process over the years. And then times move on, don't they? Around about the past year, we've been evolving into phase 3, which is a recognition that we've got this leadership communications thing now, you know, women's leadership and beyond, and leadership pipelines, great. And we're having an incredible impact at that level. And there's more to do at a senior level across the whole of organizations. So now the third phase is really strategic leadership communications, and getting up to that top level where we're now really deeply partnering across whole organizations to help them to articulate with clarity what it is that they're doing. How can they hone in on that in a way that is crystal clear? In fact, we say diamond clear, like, you know, as strong and solid as a diamond and as clear as one too. And that radiates the incredible light that comes out of a diamond when you shine into it, that it is exciting, that it's captivating. And then when we combine that diamond with the person who's wearing it, you know, the human being who is showcasing that and bringing it to life, we can start to fizz up whole organizations with that sense of really clearly knowing their message, really clearly inhabiting their narrative, their stories, and channeling that through their people and out really powerfully into the world. And that all came from working with Madame Kelly Quinn over the years.
I mean, thank you. I think that I want to take it right back and just to say that those original moments of working with you and knowing the pureness, like this is the theme that's coming out from some of the other guests we're having. Women are working for 10, 15, 20 years on an idea, and they're still, you know, in the next iteration, the shaping of it and the passion and the mission that, you know, of course we have to have revenue. Of course, we want a wonderful lifestyle that remunerates us for our work and our passion in the world. But this sense of deep purpose, that we want to put something out that really makes a difference, And for me, working with women, like truly working in partnership, I think we had such a ride. We were working together for like 2 years, and then we've continued our journey, and that shaping of one another's principles and feeling things out, there's so much that's available when you have those relationships, and it's so important. Aliya, have you got anything to?
Well, firstly, I want to be cheeky and say that we have this mission to support 1,000 women reach 7 figures in the next 3 years. Can I say that it's only 999 now? Because we can tick Sarah off as one.
And I was one too, so I've definitely been
that's tick one, 998.
Absolutely.
That's fine, easy. Yeah. All joking aside, many businesses are set up and are scaled to, the clients that we are looking to work with, and we feel that we've best placed to support are the ones who sort of got a product that's working. The idealism has turned into a product. Like you say, it's met commercialism, and there's a product there. And the thinking that got them to where they're at is not going to get them beyond that. And some of them even get to that stage and either have to abandon it because of some outward pressure that women still have. Let's face it, we still do the majority of the caregiving and all of that. So family pressure. Or they just financially get something wrong and then they could lose it very quickly. What do you think those founders are struggling with? What can you give to them, having been through that, to say, okay, here's a pitfall, avoid it? Or what would you like to say to them to encourage them and support them in getting to the next stage?
There's so much, isn't there? I think that what I've observed over the past couple of months, actually since the beginning of 2025, is that the world has shifted on its axis, and it is tough out there, and things that were previously easy are not easy anymore. So I think that's useful to know that if you experience that, you're not alone. It's not only it's not only your actions that are at play. There's a lot of chaos and crazy energy bouncing around the world, right? So we have a choice when those things happen. We can go, damn it, the world has changed, and I'm in resistance to that, and look for who we can blame. Or we can focus on, well, what is it? What is the opportunity here that I'm able to work with? We had that with COVID, so many of us. We, Ginger, did not have a single in-person product in that moment. And we thought it wasn't possible to do what we do virtually. So we never even considered it. And of course, overnight, you've got no business. It doesn't exist. There is no business in sight. So we had to pivot. And what I've always been very good at is coming up with a new idea. What I've not always been quite so good at is connecting that idea to what other people want and need. So my big learning is really listening to, really hearing on another level, what is it that people want and need? Not what we think they need, not the idealism of what they should need. What do they actually need? And it's fine to, and it's essential actually to keep the idealism of where do we want to go in the end, but we have to connect that back down to what are people saying they need, because that in the end is what people are going to buy. That's a signifier of what is valuable. That's how we apportion value in our economy. Now, you can't be beneficial at all to a person if you're not in relationship with them. We know that when people pay for things, they are in relationship with you because, they're putting something that they've spent time on, the money that they've got, towards something that they want to get from you. So if we're able to really, really deeply consider and listen to who has the money, what are they spending it on, what do they need, and how can we help? That's when we start to get maybe unusual insights, maybe things that previously were not our ballpark could be, and then we start adding value. And one example of that for us at the moment is we have a lot of tech companies as our clients. They always have been interested in our work, But one of them came to us and said, our big need at the moment is escalation management. And I'm thinking, God, what on earth? First of all, what is that? And normally that face, Kel, go away. Actually, when I look into it, what is escalation management? It is their need as techie people to be able to translate whatever is going on that is a crisis into a continued positive client relationship. And so much of that is about communications, and so much of that is about communications on a human level. So I could say, oh, that's nothing to do with us and it's too businessy, or I can lean in and look at the substance of it and can we help?
One good thing about such a vibrant, interactive social media scene is that investigation of what the client is looking for is so much easier to do now, because you can just post something on your LinkedIn and say, what's everybody doing about this? Or I'm finding this, what are your thoughts? And then getting the messages back and starting that conversation. So you can start many, many conversations with lots and lots and lots of people and get that feedback and sort of start to hone in on, well, I don't have the answer for that, but I do have the answer for that, or that's my lane. I'm going to stick to that. I think it's...
Do you like all that social media stuff?
No.
I find it really...
No. I regard it as a tool. I don't like it. I mean, I think, interestingly, we were talking with Callie, and Callie went, surprising really, because she deals with a lot of influencers, and she said, I just stick to LinkedIn, YouTube, and Substack. Those are my happy places, and I don't have any other social media. I was quite surprised. She said, I know what my lanes are and I stick to them, and within those lanes, those media, I stick to a very narrow message, which is this. And she said, and when I do that, people come inward. There's no very little outward stuff. It's all coming in. And it reminds me of, I think you've just got to find what you feel comfortable with. I feel very comfortable with LinkedIn, not so much with Instagram or TikTok or anything like that. Some other people would find LinkedIn very dull. No, their playing field is Instagram. I think you've got to find where your people are, and you're going to feel comfortable there because they're your people. So I think that's what it is. And I remember saying to you ages ago, marketing is really quite easy in a sense that if you get it right, it's about talking to the right people at the right time with the right message. And if you do that, you will never sell. They'll just buy because you're saying the right thing to them at the right time. And here's the thing that you're looking for. I think it's never been an easier time to do that, but it's easy to get confused.
I agree. Yeah. What about you, Kel? Because you're, look, here's me interviewing you now.
No, I love it.
You are the people person. How do you, and it connects back to what I was just saying about the human. How do you feel, and how do you use or not use social media?
Yeah. So, well, here's what I've got based on listening to what you've both said. So I grew up in my business career. So 47 now, but, I was cold calling and knocking doors when I was 16 and 17 through college and uni. So I've always been direct. I've always just gone to see people and chatted and listened. And then I hear things and then I put patterns together and then I create an opportunity. How we met was because I went looking through founder lists. I went looking through websites of, the different things that I was interested in, because I can't just do my business consulting with anything. I couldn't do it with an engineering firm, a bit like escalation strategies. I'd be like, oh no. But I went looking for what lit me up and what I could give my all to. Right. So that was then. So almost 10 years ago we met. I've not used social media at all once. I've always gone direct, or it's been personal word of mouth. Now, literally now, as we move out with Women Who Lead and Sell, and there is a vision and we do want to reach different audiences, we've been really particular about what we do. Starting the podcast is a very specific, okay, we can bring together amazing voices, share knowledge. We can reach people that maybe can't afford things, which has always been a big thing of me. I want to make sure I'm giving things that are accessible. So, the next generation coming through. So we've chosen the podcast. Okay. One strategy that takes investment, time, curation, care. And then I've looked at, okay, what 1 or 2 channels would I love to be on? LinkedIn makes sense, but I have hang-ups about LinkedIn. I don't have a good strapline. I don't know what to say in my one-liner, like all that stuff. So really for me, I know that YouTube and LinkedIn are going to be places I'm going to be, but that's only because of the people that are already there that I've had for 20 odd year relationships, that I'm already in conversations on their threads, that if I comment a few times a week and I pop on to see what they're up to or campaigns they're championing in, it's a very good use of my time. It's regenerative. It feels good. And I'd also go to a luncheon next week with them, or I would invite them to a retreat. So I've quite an intimate circle, a lot of people, but it's very intimate, values driven. So I'm not out there in the mass stuff at all. I get very lost and very confused with all of that. And speaking to your point about, I think you said about being comfortable, what I've learned through all the trying of my own strategies. So like people have tried business strategies and then they come to me when they want to do it properly. I've tried lots of communication trainings and lots of public speaking trainings and lots of ways to be like the convert in a certain way. And I never did. And I really, I really burnt my little system out. And in terms of my resilience to keep going, it went away. But the more I've stayed close to myself and stayed absolutely true to creating partnership and long-term relationships that are, reciprocal and feel good and feel fun, that is literally the fuel that makes it all worthwhile for me. And even with us, I'm very congruent. I choose people after I've seen them. Like for you, it was very visible to me who you were. Like we met, it was very visible. You were a doer, you questioned, you were curious, like this insane curiosity. I'm like, do I want that in my life the whole time? Yes, please. Even though so many ideas, from all of us, but like, would I want to be with Aliya, throughout my workday all the time? Yes. Because she challenges, because she doesn't just listen to me. She doesn't people please. So there are all those things. So I kind of go, what am I doing in my offline world? Well, really, that's what I'm going to be doing in my online world, just choosing so carefully and that alignment, because we don't have loads of time. We just don't. And it's very finite. And they're very specific goals that I want to have realize. So yeah, you just have to be smart. Thanks for the question, Sarah.
I like what you said there. You said I choose to do online what I do offline.
Yeah.
And it comes back to my analogy where I'm always saying to clients, would you do what you're doing online? Would you do that in real life? Like, would you, if your online business were a shop, for example, would you signpost it that way? Or would you have people come in and then be met with a lot of complexity? Or, think about it in those terms, because I think it is so easy to lose yourself online, digitally, and just kind of start to do what the masses are doing. Like, you only have to say marketing funnel to me and I start to go, formulaic, not, I'm sure there are some amazing, properly put together marketing funnels out there, but I just go a bit cold with some of the stuff I see. Well, do it this way and you'll be amazing. I do feel that a lot of that stuff is going to disappear because people are just going to go, I've had enough of that. I'm switching that off. I'm going back to basics. Let me go back to basics. Basic marketing stuff, just right message, right time.
I've got a burning question. I think it's about pace, but Sarah, I've loved hearing you say that there was phase 1 and there was phase 2, and then, there's an emerging now phase 3. Take us back to that person that I met 10 years ago, and you'd already been doing business for quite a while, hadn't you? I think like 8 years you'd been, something like that. Is that about right? Maybe like taking programs out there, making it. I remember you just being like, just had been doing it for a while. Do you think, so most founders think that they can create, $500,000 or $1 million in a year. They do. And they still haven't figured out fully the minimum viable product or their client base, right? They just don't have that set up. So when you look back, what do you think about our realistic expectations of creating something that's really good quality with aligned clients? Like what advice and what wisdom can you share?
There are so many things that a solopreneur does to begin with before she gets to then add in her team around her. And at the beginning, I was everything. That sounds really accurate. Oh, I was everything. No, I did everything. It's me really,
You
really
did, yeah.
Yeah, that I did the strategy, I did the design of the product, I did the delivery of the product, I did the finances, would you believe, for a moment. I did the sales, there were every single corporate function was me. And I'm sure there are those listening who are in that position. It is a lot. And we can get excited by the abilities that we have, and we can be a multitasker, and we can probably seem like we're doing really well. But there are always things that other people can do better than us. And pivotal moment for me, again, through you, Kel, was when you introduced me to the amazing Ashley, my still PA, some 8 years later, who spotted the fact that I don't really do details, although I was overcompetently sort of, efforting around everything. And so I felt like I could do details. But when you take that person who can go, right, give me all the times and the dates and the when things are going to happen, and I'll take care of it. Suddenly that weight that you didn't even know was there is lifted off your shoulders. And as the business is built out, I've had the pleasure of being able to pull out all the different skill sets and energetic tendencies that other people have, and learn more about what is my core area of strength. And again, another person you introduced me to, Chris Wildeboer, who is an energy specialist, has helped me to spot that my predominant focus, my energy, is discovery. What's next? What are we doing? When I've another name check to Bieber and Global Warriors and the incredible work they do with equine leadership. When she showed me and my team how we lead together, it's through the metaphor and the literal experience of leading horses. It turned out that I was with the horse a good deal in front of my team, who were being left behind as I disappear off, which is what I do. I create. I'm a creator. I'm a creative.
Yes.
So what I need around me are people who take care of all the bits and pieces, the who, what, where, and when. That's Ash. I need, and others in the business. I need people who organize and solidify the repeatables, the maintenance, the processes. And we now have fantastic people in those positions. And what I was missing until relatively recently, perhaps, was some of the wraparound hug, the person who deals with all the people in the business, the Kelly Quinn type of person who's got their arms around everybody and is looking after them and lifting them up. But because as much as I can sell and as much as I love to have client conversations, I like to sell the new thing, and then I disappear off, with the horse onto the horizon, and need somebody who goes, yeah, but there's a whole load of relationships here that need to be maintained and nurtured. So having, again, it's Chris Wildeboer who was able to articulate that to me, because it's 4 distinct energy areas, and having her help me to figure out which one I'm in. And to be in that energy and to be comfortable in that, and then to build the team around me, not just a team that has the right skill set on paper, because if I look at my own energetic bias, I would bring people who on paper had the right skill set, but were in my energy. So the administrative person who's exciting. Yes. I don't need that. I need someone who is a little bit dull energetically for my system. It's not to say they're a dull person. It's just that that's how I might receive it in an interview. Or the salesperson who's like super up with me and the ideas. That's not helpful, because we've got enough ideas, too many ideas as it is. So we need the person who's back there in the client relationships and in the process of it. So that's quite revolutionary, because the way that we now recruit as a result is for balance of different energetic tendencies, plus the skills that they display on their CVs, rather than just picking who are like. Yeah, I'm not sure that answered your question, but that felt like an important thing to say.
No, there's so much.
We were talking about team with Emily the Diamond, or was it Emily the Diamond?
Yes.
And we were talking about job responsibilities and how we spend a lot of time focusing on this is your job, this is what you do, this is that. And then Emily started to talk about, when you get somebody in and the pitfall is the friendship zone and you can't quite differentiate, like you can be friendly with them, but not friends, and how we spend zero time setting up those expectations at the beginning and how important it is to do that. And I think that sort of speaks a little bit into what you're saying, is like balancing out not only what they're going to do, but who they're going to be in the team.
Yeah, there's a big difference between being an entrepreneur and, hubby and I were really in it together for a long time without employees. We had freelancers who also have a different mentality. And then as you get to employees, there is a difference in leadership and direction that we noticed ourselves needing to take. Out of the spirit of freelance empowerment, we wanted to include everyone and brainstorm together. Turns out some people don't like that. That's not their sweet spot. That's not, they would like to have clarity, please, rather than questions asked. Yeah. So being willing to look at what is my own leadership and who do I need to be to bring the best out of this person is really important. And there's of course the on paper role, and then there's the reality of being able to have stretching conversations that we do daily on a client relationship basis in the training room. On a daily level, we are paid to give the feedback that affirms, stretches, and points out for our clients. And to be able to do that for your own employees, where things are much more close up to you, that's tricky. I still struggle with that, but it's something that I would love to do more effectively. So working on at the moment. Can we say, look, this is what's great about you, and here's where we need to stretch. Here's what we see you as being when you're operating at your biggest potential. It doesn't have to be a performance review conversation that is confrontational, but it does need to be owned as a business leader, to your point there, rather than something that is the tendency to be a little bit too nice and to want people to like us.
Yeah,
back to the purpose, isn't it? Are we here to be liked and likable, or are we here to achieve a certain thing? And if it's the latter, what are we willing to do? Who are we willing to potentially upset or risk upsetting in order to achieve the greater good?
I think that's the biggest step for a female founder, moving from the lower tier revenue to the upper tier revenue, is that step in leadership. I'd say that, and because it's easy to say, "Oh, I want my business to turn over $1 million." Yeah, but you're going to have to step into some real leadership to do that last bit there for sure, because you can't do that. You're likely going to have a team, and there are all sorts of conversations to be had around that. So and I think people are unrealistic.
Something
sometimes.
That's been really up for you this week is when we've been speaking to women is this when they go all in. So when it gets to that level where you really do have a great product and you get that ambition, like you know that it's going to work. So now you're going all in. Something will have to give. There are sacrifices, whether that's like not being so present as a mum, or maybe losing out on friends, friends and social stuff, or just moving yourself to another level. Your conversations are different, the questions you're asking, where your energy and attention has to go. So it's like that all in conversation. So, it is so interesting, and the friend versus friendly. And I definitely, like, there's something that I have to balance all the time, or I can feel myself, I get a bit loose with it. So then I have to bring it in because, just bringing it back to the purpose.
And I think this is something we can learn from our lovely male mentors and friends. And
you're not prepared to. No, we're not.
No. Sorry, go on.
I don't understand what we're talking about now.
No, well, what you were saying, I didn't know where you went. You said
this is something we can learn.
This is not something I thought you said.
No, I think it is.
It is. Okay, Go on, say.
You might not get the reaction you want. I'm just warning you, Sarah. Look at the face.
Go on, I'm curious.
Please do say
I think
what
you were
you're
saying,
say.
and then you went somewhere. So my listening went into two different directions.
This is something we can learn from our wonderful male, friends and mentors and colleagues, that there is a tendency there to compartmentalize and to divide, which can be really helpful. That as much as women often play the role where we're bringing together and it's the tend and befriend piece. If we're honest with ourselves, we have things to learn as well, and we can learn as much from the chaps as they can learn from us. So there's some piece there around. I look in admiration at guys who can go, right, this is business, this is pleasure, and I'm able to therefore be really clear. So it's that level of clarity of I don't need to be overly personal in this situation, because the more personal I become, the more it projects a feeling onto that person there that if I had been a little bit more distant, they might have been able to, or they might have had a bit more space to deal with the emotion of that situation. Sometimes when we overly to the emotions of, this must be really tough for you, and we get the tilty head thing, and we're infusing everything with a lot of emotion, it actually makes it more difficult for people.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, you made one point and then you've taken it somewhere that I'm like, absolutely. And it's one of my questions for you was going to be, what are you currently unlearning? And great segue in. That's exactly what I'm currently unlearning, where I put things in the space and they just don't need to be. And it's really quite a practice for me to just be like, over here. I thought I was doing it really well, and the results say that I'm doing it really well. But the over emotion, the over sentimentality on my part can flood a space, and it doesn't need to be. So it's like, I'm sat back in the chair, and I feel like I'm really pushing myself back in the chair as I'm saying that. I'm like, sit right back, just observe what's actually going on for the person. You don't have to add any of your ingredients to it. Thanks. Be impartial, ask questions, take it that way. So I love that point. What are you currently unlearning? Like, what's something in business you're currently unlearning?
Wow. I'm unlearning that I have all the answers.
Yes, I can relate to that one.
How about that? Because I suppose the business has grown up out of my own self-assurance, self-confidence that I have something to teach. And of course, we need to keep a little bit of that, because otherwise confidence goes flop. So yes, and yes, I have something to offer, and maybe I don't have all the answers. Dun, dun, dun. So, maybe there are people who know better than me, and maybe if I enter into a space where I think and articulate I don't know, then maybe someone else does know. So making a bit more space for others to know is, I think, an ongoing challenge for me, because I'm fast and creative and I fill space quite easily. Mm-hmm. And often people are a bit dazzled by the first thing that I might say because of those qualities. But does that mean it's right? And does that mean it's, actionable and useful? Absolutely not. So thank you for the chance to remember that for myself, because it was a heavy theme for me a couple of months ago, but I think more work on that is where I need to go.
Oh, and thank you for answering it so honestly. I mean, you've always been very reflective, very curious, and I think they, for me, are the balance to that really busy creative side, and I relate to that as well. We are coming slowly to an end, but we've got some quick fire questions to pepper in. Do you want to go with the first one?
Yeah. What's the rule?
I'm going to end up shouting bottom in a minute. Is that what's
you can shout whatever you want.
Who do you think is best, Cher or Dolly? No, just kidding. What's one rule of business you've joyfully broken and you'd break again?
I don't think I've ever followed a business rule.
All of them.
I'm so glad you
followed
said
any
that.
of them.
She's like, what business? Oh, that little thing.
Oh my God. That's
There's hope for us all. My one is, you've got a Post-it note and you're writing a note to female founders who are actively growing their businesses, what do you put on it and why? Oh my God.
What would you say to them?
What are you doing?
Everybody laughs at that question. It's hilarious.
Now we've got bottom coming up. I don't know. What do I say? So what am I doing? I've got to post a note to female founders.
Yeah.
Yes.
What would you write?
I'm going to write bottom, meaning don't take yourself too seriously.
Don't take it too seriously.
Don't take yourself too seriously.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
Enjoy the ride and be yourself.
If your business disappeared tomorrow, what would you build next?
Yeah.
If you had to push it to one side,
If
what
your
would you build
business
next?
disappeared tomorrow,
Yeah.
I know you'd like recreate it in about 24 hours, but don't think that. You can't do Ginger leadership communications anymore. What would you do? What would you build?
next?
What would you build next?
Something to revolutionize education.
Wow, I love that.
Oh, I love it.
So cool.
I love it.
So cool.
That was amazing. I think that's a wrap.